I have a comparison for this Panthers team. And I thought going into this week, I'm like, this is a game that maybe they can win. But after this game, my emotions became very emotional. I felt bad. I feel bad for Bryce Young. And I think there's a quarterback or a situation that reminds me of it. I wasn't alive for this situation, so I did some research. The 1999 Cleveland Browns. Okay. This Panthers team has become the new Cleveland Browns. I think that as we enter in, this is what it's going to become. First things first, what was similar to the Cleveland Browns of 1999 to this 2023 Panthers?
They suck.
Well, yes. So let me speak. New owner, right? Art Modell moved him to Baltimore. They got a new owner, expansion team.
Okay.
That new owner had the first overall pick. They drafted Tim Couch over Donovan McNabb. Their coach at the time, Chris Palmer, wanted Donovan McNabb. Chris Palmer, not a very good head coach. 5-27 as a head coach. Frank Reich, the last 20 games, 4-16-1 over the last 2 years.
Okay.
One of their moves in the offseason was to sign an aging running back, not wide receiver, but sign an aging Terry Kirby, who we don't know because I wasn't born in the fucking 90s. Second in receiving yards, right? 29 years old, aging running back. Probably shouldn't have been there. His number one was Kevin Johnson. You're probably thinking, who's Kevin Johnson? Yeah, welcome to the club. Who the fuck's Kevin Johnson? Not only that team finished 2-14. Their offense was anemic. Their offensive coordinator was a disaster. The coaching was a disaster. And it started a string of terrible quarterbacks. And then I look at the Browns, right? The quarterbacks that they took afterwards, right? He was the first round pick, and he did not end up panning out in the NFL. Then they had Brady Quinn. Brady Quinn, his number one receiver was Braylon Edwards, who he was fine, I guess, but not a great offensive line, had one of the worst offensive lines. Another thing about Tim Couch relating to Bryce Young. Bryce Young's been sacked 48 times this year. Tim Couch that year was sacked 70 times. Okay. And he's on pace to have that. I looked at Bryce Young's numbers. Pretty much every single game, he's getting sacked 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
That's when you could hit the quarterback too.
Yeah. And that was a different era too.
Yeah.
But the Browns, think about it. Tim Couch had a lot of promise, goes into the Browns organization, which is a complete disaster, terrible owner, terrible head coach, terrible weapons, terrible offensive line. I'm not saying Bryce Young is better than CJ Stroud or he could have been better than Anthony Richardson, but I think there are certain draft busts, which is what Bryce Young will probably become, sadly, when they're put in situations that are this bad. How are you supposed to succeed with not a good offensive line, without any good weapons, without a good ownership group, dysfunction in the locker room, dysfunction in the front office? He's set up for failure, and I feel bad for the kid because I think that had he been drafted somewhere like Indy or Houston, it would have been a much different team for him, and he would have, maybe he doesn't set the world on fire like CJ Stroud, but he would look a hell of a lot better than he does now, and I feel bad for him.